Hey guys, Mr. Corbin here along with Miss Powell. Good to see you all. Mr. Corbin's been doing a little dog training today, so he kind of looks like a dog and now only that's but smells like a dog. So, Miss Powell, what are we going to be talking about today?
We have talked about square roots in the past, but I'm wanting to introduce roots that's not just squared.
Okay, so again, a square root, if we square something, that means we're multiplying it times itself twice, right? Now, taking the square root means we're going to undo that. We're looking for a number that multiplies times itself to give us the number under the radical symbol. And so, what do you have first for us?
Well, if they ask you for the square root of 64, even though they don't have the 2 there, it's understood to be a 2. So they can either have the 2 there or not have the 2, but it means square root.
Yeah, and that's really important too because you can take any number root. And so, like Miss Powell said, when there's nothing written there, then we know that it's a 2, it's the square root. And that's what we deal with the most.
So if I'm looking at the square root of 64, I'm trying to figure out what number do I multiply by itself twice. So I've got 2 blanks here to give you 64.
Right. So again, we're going backwards from squaring. What number times itself gives us 64? Well, and you've got it. It's 8. So that means the square root of 64 is 8. I love it how you go backwards there, Miss Pound.
Yeah.
Nobody ever writes the equal
You can
sign
do
to the
it.
left.
You can do it either way.
Nobody ever does that.
Now, if though, on the other hand, they ask me to change in its cube root of 64, then I actually have to add another parentheses because it's a number multiplied by itself. And that's the tricky thing. A lot of people just think you put 3 random numbers. It has to be the exact same number. Now, it can't be 8 anymore because 8 times 8 is already 64.
Right.
So 8's too big. So it's got to be a number smaller than 8. Now, if I pick something like 7, 7, 7, that's going to be too big because 7 times 7 is 49, and 49 7 times will be way bigger than 64.
And that's the thing too, Miss Powell. It's got to be the same number, right? Because it's a number multiplied times itself 3 times. So probably going to start a lot lower than 8.
So let's try 5. 5 times 5 times 5. 5 times 5 is 25, and 5 times 25 is the same thing as having 5 quarters, which is $1.25. So that's too big.
Right. And a lot of people too don't make that 3 times 5. It's not 15. So just because it's 3 numbers, remember it's multiplied times itself 3 times, not times 3.
So I'm going to try a lower number of 4. 4 times 4 is 16. 16 times 4 is 64. So that has to be my match. So the cube root of 64 is 4.
I'm just glad you put it on the right side this time.
Yes. Now, they don't have to do roots bigger than square and cube, but this is kind of how I like to think of it. Let's say that you want to find the 5th root of 32. I draw a tree. The tree is named 32.
I've never seen this in my life.
You have to have 5 roots because trees have roots. However many roots I put here should match that number that's in that corner right there. So if I want to find the 5th root of 32, I have to figure out what number do I multiply by itself. So I could put dots between them because it needs to multiply. Now, 5th root of 32, playing around with it, it's going to have to be a small number. And the one number that would work for that would be 2's. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 2 is 16. 16 times 2 is 32. So the 5th root of 32 is 2. So I sometimes like to draw that visual.
That's a great visual. It might be the worst tree I've ever seen, Miss Powell. Thanks. Thanks for that.
Now, sometimes they will ask me to find this answer a different way. Like they may say x squared is equal to 49, which is saying what number, so I don't know, do I square to get 49, which is the same thing as the blank number times itself equals 49. Well, that's the exact same thing we've been saying. What basically is the square root of 49? Like what number do you multiply by itself to get 49, which would be 7. So I should be able to put 7 in all of those spots. And so I can go up here and replace the x and put a 7. So it's whatever makes what this equation balanced. So if this side is 49, this side has to equal 49. So they could put it in terms of variables. So they could go back, and the variable doesn't have to be x. It could be a. And they could change this number right here to be 81. So all of this would have to be changed.
So again, you're just saying what number times itself gives me 81.
Right. So that's some number squared, I don't know, has to equal 81. But some number squared means some number times itself has to equal 81, which is the same thing as saying square root of 81, because that's what you're saying. What number do you multiply by itself to give you that? So what could I fill in those blanks with would be 9s. 9 times 9 is 81. 9 squared is 81. Square root of 81 is 9. And I can go up there and replace that with a 9. They all mean basically the same thing. Does that make sense?
Okay. That sounds great, Miss Powell.
Now, let's change up the whole thing and not do squares anymore, but some missing number, and I'm just going to call it n cubed, and that has to equal 125. So I want to know what number do I cube to get 125. So that means some number cubed is a number times itself again would equal 125. Well, that's the same thing as saying what is the cube root of 125. So I can figure out what goes in that blank. So using your math knowledge, what number is that?
Well, I think it might be 5.
So 5 times 5 is 25. 25 times 5 is 125. So 5 cubed, which means I can come up here and put 5 cubed, and that's what I'd have to have for the answer. So that's just another way of writing those.
Okay. Well, that's a pretty good review, and that will get us started certainly for square roots and cube roots. And so we will see you guys on the next video coming up. For Miss Powell, I am Mr. Corbin. Bye, guys.